Welcome to First and 15, the only podcast that's trying to get you paid. I'm here with two-time FFPC champ AB. Alongside him is my guy, Dio the Machine. Guys, I want to run through some news, not a lot of news. Primarily, I want to talk about the Jonnu trade rumors. Do you guys think that that's going to happen? It looks like the price of the brick has gone up since Parnham is now hurt. How do you guys feel about this Jonnu trade rumor?
Yeah, I mean it's tough. I mean, I don't necessarily, it's one of those things where it's obviously been out there, and you have some of the major, distributor of NFL news really kind of reporting on this. So I'm assuming they're getting information fed to them, potentially from both sides. But you just mentioned Darnold Parham going down, so maybe that changes things a little bit. And Arthur Smith's history with Jonnu Smith. I remember way back when Dale constantly commenting that is Jonnu the number one tight end for the Atlanta Falcons?
Yeah.
From like week one.
Yeah.
And we were like, nah. At least I was like, nah. I was like, what? No, just get Pitt some times. He was like, every week, are you sure Jonnu's not the number one tight end?
Because what I'm seeing is
Are you sure he's not the number one tight end? And then by week 3 or 4, you're like, is he the number one tight end? So you clearly know his history. And Jonnu, I think, offers a lot of things. Obviously, athletic. I'm assuming. Go look up at PFF. I'm assuming he's probably a decent blocker, at least can block the way that Arthur Smith wants to in his system. So I think there's definitely something there. The reason it's important is because if you're listening to this, you're probably drafting now. Most people are probably drafting now, both in best ball, redraft, and a Jonnu trade would have a major, major impact on this offense. Mm-hmm. This offense is already very difficult to try and figure out, just because what happened 2 years ago versus what happened last year were two very, very different things. And there are obviously like a number of different reasons for that. I think the biggest being the offensive line, Tua going down. And, we check the last part. I think we talked about Tyreek Hill extensively. But I just feel like that whole offense and what they're going to do is like very confusing. And all of those guys are really getting drafted in the top 6 round. Mm-hmm. And Tua's not even being drafted. So anytime you see that, we kind of mention this almost every offseason. Like, why are all these guys being drafted?
Who said that about Purdy?
Yeah, and Purdy was really, really good last year. Yeah. And the same thing is happening this year. But we say that all the time, but this is even like more of a discrepancy. I mean, you literally have a lot of guys from the Miami offense who play a significant role in that passing game being drafted very heavily at the high end of the board. 4 guys, I believe. 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4. Yeah. Maybe going in the top 6 to 7 rounds, at least in tight end premium. So, and 2 is not even being drafted. So when you see that, this is like confusion. So you already like there's a lot of like what is going on here. People aren't quite sure what's going on. But you eliminate one of those players, okay? You eliminate one of those pieces, and that pie, the percentage of the pie potentially increases for everyone else, and it just sort of kind of makes that picture a little bit clearer. So now, just imagine a Jonnu trade, what would happen. Mm-hmm. I think the first person to probably see the increase in ADP would be Waddle, because he's going the latest. And then, everybody's concerned about Tyreek Hill. That's the poster boy for fade at all cost, or, he's kind of falling off the cliff. But I think you see a slight increase in him too as well. And then Achane is going in the second round, but, maybe people may argue that now he eats up some of those close to the line of scrimmage targets too as well. So it's just important because if you're drafting this early, you got to know that the potential's out there. But, it's how you want to approach it. I think for me, you try to take ADP value as much as you can. Waddle's been going late. I think you've been a huge proponent of potentially him having a bounce back year. I'll let you speak on that. But on the Steelers side of things, I don't necessarily know that it changes much outside of Pat Freiermuth. Mm-hmm. And I guess he's somebody that like I really haven't been drafting. I see the appeal, but he's just someone like I just can't get there. Mm-hmm. Not in that offense. I just don't think that there is enough there. Outside of DK, I really haven't been targeting anybody in that passing game. Maybe a mistake, but I feel like that's a safe play because I don't think Arthur Smith can really support too many passing game weapons. So, yeah, my whole approach is like Steelers doesn't change much, but with Miami, like if these guys start really, dipping in value, and they have been, you're starting to see 4th round Tyreek Hill, Waddle, really going at the end of the 6th, like. at some point, like, even if Jonnu doesn't go, that ADP, that value may be well worth it to go ahead and attack those guys. So, I didn't really say a lot in that outside of, confusing picture and, attack the ADP values.
Yeah.
Otherwise, speculation. I don't know.
What do you think about the Jonnu trade rumors?
Man, I don't really care, to be honest with you, man. I don't ever care about rumors, right? So
Until it happens, it doesn't matter.
right? Yeah. Because otherwise, just feel like I waste my precious time, brain cells thinking about scenarios that don't even come to fruition. So it's like, let me just wait for it to play out, because not much going to change unless you try and get ahead of the curve. And I really don't see much benefit in trying to get ahead of that type of curve, because I really don't think it affects anything with the Steelers other than Freiermuth, right?
Yeah.
Freiermuth is going so late anyways. Like, Freiermuth is not somebody people are targeting.
Yeah.
Freiermuth is more a player people only are drafting because they didn't get a tight end early enough and they're scrambling, or they're just trying to get depth. But other than that, I don't think it does anything.
What about like Jonnu specifically? What do you do with Jonnu in this situation?
I think you drafted him the same place you drafted him before.
Are you in on Jonnu this year?
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really. No. I mean, I wasn't in on him last year. He did well. I wasn't a believer the whole time.
Yeah.
Because it kind of came out the blue.
Yeah.
He didn't start the season that way. It's almost like it became that way due to necessity.
Yep. Yep.
So when stuff like that plays out, I feel like once all the horses get back in the stall, everything reverts back to what it originally was. But as far as the Dolphins,
do they have horses in the stall?
Talking about the Steelers?
No, the Dolphins.
The Dolphins, I think they do.
Line.
I think they do.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know what their offensive line is looking like right now. I know they just lost Armstead, the left tackle.
Yeah.
But one thing, especially as a Texans fan and watching the way the Texans are trying to put together their offensive line, that I'm starting to kind of realize, I think a lot of offensive line success is due to coaching.
Yep.
A lot of everybody
chemistry,
working in unison, chemistry, and things like that. And I don't think it's so much big names. I mean, sometimes you have a player that just so good, like they can wipe off, but other times,
like a Detroit Lion, that's when you're the elite of the elite.
Yeah. But other times, it's almost like these players, they got a good system, they worked well together, they're improving, and now the offensive line is
My
doing
favorite
well,
example of that is like the Rams, the year that Stafford got hurt. Like right before he got hurt, like their offensive line was just turnstile. Like everybody was coming through, and he was just getting knocked around week after week after week, and ultimately like got knocked out of the season. And so the following year, I don't necessarily know that there were many changes, and I think that's the year, blanking on his name, he's analyst now for Prime NFL, but that's the year when one of the perennial Pro Bowl O-linemen had retired. I believe that's the year he retired, and everyone was just concerned about that O-line. They really didn't do all that much, but it was like some young guys, and then the following year, I mean, I don't want to say they were amazing, but they were more than serviceable, and that offense was significantly better.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't know. We'll see how the Dolphins' offensive line looks, but for me, like you were saying, I've kind of been on Waddle so far this whole draft season thus far. I think he is going to have a bounce back. I think last year, certain circumstances made him struggle the way he did.
Yeah.
Some of that was him just having a bad season. Like he was dropping the ball. He wasn't, having much success. He was getting injured all the time, whatever. But I think we forget there was a time we were drafting Waddle in like the first 3, maybe even 2 rounds in drafts. Waddle's still very young, right? He's still very, very fast. And that target tree didn't change much.
Yeah.
We might say Malik Washington might be a little bit of a factor, but in reality, he's still a total unknown. It's still just a two-headed monster. And the other head of that monster is getting older, still dealing with injuries of his own, kind of,
got some off the field issues.
Going, wilding out on his, on some AB type stuff. So
look, he may have turned the corner though.
Right. I don't know if I want to go AB.
I mean, he might have, but what I'm saying is, when we look at Waddle and we look at Tyreek, we're viewing Tyreek on the high end as far as being a great player, the wide receiver one of that team.
Yeah.
But what if, because there is at some point going to be a point where Waddle is probably going to surpass Tyreek.
Yeah.
Father Time is undefeated. That time might be now. We don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I don't think it's a big deal. Now, I think losing Jonnu, I think it might benefit Achane because one thing Johnny was for the Dolphins last year was like a security blanket, like an outlet.
Outlet.
And I'm not really too familiar with the Dolphins depth chart, so I don't know who's second in line in the tight end room. But if that person is not somebody, useful, then it might just be more Achane, which makes Achane even more of a value than what he. And y'all know I love Achane. And I was looking at the boards the other day. I was like, man, I love Achane so much. I'm always willing to draft him super high, but then I look at the guys he's going in front of. It's like, I kind of get it, right? It's like
this year, like the first 2 rounds are pretty nice. So at least that's why I talk about it. Like he's in that like last tier for me, where like I think it's like if you're the A slot, like everything is just like super.
It looks
nice
like he's going right behind C-Mac/Genty.
Yeah.
And I can't see myself taking. I mean, I can talk myself into it.
Yeah.
But I love C-Mac.
Yeah.
And Genty is like the mystery box where he could hit and really, really hit.
And everything that's out there with Chip Kelly and like what his offenses have done, like with the run game and involving his running backs.
I don't really know how much higher Achane can go in your rankings. But again, if it would help somebody, that's who it would benefit.
But I don't know.
Andrew Whitworth is who you.
Yeah, Andrew Whitworth. Yeah, but I'm still camp Tyreek Hill, not in the sense of like go reach for him, get him in the second round, but in the camp of like I still think he is going to be the number one. I just like, the whole separation thing to me, him like losing stuff. You see people posting stuff on Twitter. Oh, look, I mean, they're doing like release packages, release drills out there. And be like, oh, look how much quicker Waddle looks. I'm like, this type of offense to me, none of that really matters. Like this type of offense, or like at least what it's been in the past has really been like 2, or like this is your first read, 2, this is your second read, 2, here you go. And until like Waddle or the coach says, look, Tyreek, Waddle is now the first read, or he devises the offense like that. No, I'm not saying against you. What I'm saying is like, but that's something that we wouldn't know. Like, so if the coach could theoretically pull everyone, maybe not vocal about it, but could like look at the film, but could decide that like it's time for Waddle to be that primary read. To me, I just don't see that.
I mean, but no, the majority opinion obviously is Tyreek is wide receiver 1 today. Like everybody, Tyreek is still top 4 3-round pick. Waddle is top 7 6-round pick.
It's one of those things where I think I think if you ask most people, I think most people are like, I just want to fade Tyreek Hill, and I would rather take the value with Waddle.
No, hell no.
I think that's what most people.
I think a lot, man. I think that there's a demarcation line. I think it's black and white. I think there's still a crowd of people that still are in on Tyreek, and I am in on Tyreek. Like I'm one of those people. And I think there's other people that have kind of hyped up Tyreek this year because again, he's coming off of injury, which means people look at last year as far as the injury holding him back, and then Tua now is hopefully healthy.
And now you have a whole offseason to say, okay, look, they took away this from us, and then getting back to
and he's recommitting. The words he's saying, he's acting like he's back. All I'm saying is, first of all, the change in hierarchy usually is something that just kind of comes out the blue. Like we never know when it's going to happen, but when it happens quick and fast. But really what I'm saying is if it does happen now, that's how you win, right? Because you're getting a great value on Waddle right now because he's going so far behind him.
Once it happens, it's done.
If it happens, Waddle's going to be a crazy hit. You know what I'm saying? If it doesn't happen, then Waddle's going where he should be going, right? So it's just a bet you have to figure out if you want to take. But again, at some point, and it even might be through trade. They could trade Tyreek.
That's always possible.
But at some point, Waddle is going to surpass Tyreek in value.
Yeah.
And, we're closer to that point now than we were,
Back in the 6th round, if you can kind of get him there, it's like not a bad place to take him because, even if he doesn't hit, like it probably doesn't hurt you. Like you can take swings in the first couple of rounds and still like really dominate a league.
So you brought up Andrew Whitworth, former offensive lineman for the Rams. Obviously, we got news this week that Frank Ragnow is retiring center for
the transition. Okay, go ahead.
Bro, I was just thinking that. Like, man, this boy in his bag. Okay,
I see the transition.
I see Chris been practicing in the lab a little bit.
I see that. Taking classes. Making us look bad.
Center for the Detroit Lions. Yeah. Guys, how do you guys think
we got graphics too?
Oh, man, I came ready, man. I came
ready with graphics.
I came prepared. But no, how do you guys see centerpieces of an offensive line or see offensive line changes? How do you guys see those affecting some of these skill position players, especially when you're drafting someone, high end or middle of the first round where, Jahmyr Gibbs
Yeah.
is going. A center is very important to an offensive line and the
Yeah.
cohesiveness of an offensive line. Are you guys going to think twice about pushing a button on Jahmyr Gibbs, like on drafts that really count, right? Like drafts that matter, like meaning like if you're in a main event, are you going to really push the button on Jahmyr Gibbs now that the center's going?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that was before the news.
All right.
So a couple of things, like just right off the bat, no, I'm not changing really anybody's value significantly. Do I think it will have an effect? Potentially, but that's just something that's just like so hard to determine. I think there's so many variables that kind of go into that, and it may hurt in certain ways, but then lead to advantages in other ways. Like they may say, you know what, like we can't really run in between these gaps anymore. And so maybe we need to push outside a little bit more, or maybe we need to, get a little bit more creative with our running backs in the pass game. So, maybe it hurts Jahmyr Gibbs running between, certain gaps or run, in the interior gaps. But then maybe it helps him out from a standpoint of like being better off in the receiving game or like, it's just one of those things like, I don't necessarily know that you can like really get a good answer. And another really good example is, when the Eagles lost Kelsey and everybody was worried about the tush push and we were worried about what that offensive line was going to do. And what happened? Like tush push still is extraordinarily successful. Jalen Hurts is still scoring touchdowns. And oh, by the way, their running back, was the number one overall running back just based off of his rushing alone in the NFL last year. So
I think the
not going
difference
to change
with
much.
that, though, is I think the Eagles were prepared for that to happen because I think they drafted Cam Jurgens
Yeah,
in the
they
second
did.
round,
That's
second
true.
and third
Yeah.
round a couple years prior to that. So it's like they had the successor ready, in the wings. I think this retirement for the Lions came out the blue. I don't even think they have anybody they project as being the starting center. I know they just signed somebody today or maybe yesterday, recently.
Yeah.
Some guy, I don't know. But I think that center position might, like the starting center of the team might not be on the team now.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah.
But honestly, man, I think the biggest concern I have for the Lions is the loss of Ben Johnson. Like, I think that's the biggest issue for that offense, and I still don't know how to play it. Now,
their schedule is tougher.
Yeah, of course, because they got the number one. They got the number one seed schedule. But of course, as far as the center, looking at that directly, I think it's going to affect the run game and the pass game, because I think in most offenses, and I'm not too familiar with versus how the Lions offensive line works, but in most offenses, the center makes the offensive line calls, right? So you're losing that guy. So that's going to be a little issue. I think the center has a good relationship with the quarterback to make sure the protections are in place. So the quarterback might struggle a little bit trying. Jared Goff's not that mobile. So that might hurt him.
And he does not do well under pressure.
And then if he's being pressured and he doesn't have time, then that might hurt Jameson Williams because now he can't do the deep route. So
that may help Amon-Ra because
it would help Amon-Ra because it'll be more quicker type plays.
So then maybe he now becomes like a value.
Like you were saying, David Montgomery, it might hurt him going, between the tackles. I think with Gibbs, I don't think anything's going to hurt Gibbs because even if the ease of going through the tackles is less, I think if they struggle, they're just going to give Gibbs more opportunities. Like he's their passing down running back.
He's their most explosive.
Yeah, he's the explosive guy. When they need a big play, they're going to give it to him. So if they suffer in any way, I think that it's going to kind of even out at the end, But again, regardless of any of that stuff with the center of anything, I'm more concerned with what that Lions offense is going to be like without Ben Johnson. And I have no clue. I don't think anybody's talking about it. I haven't seen anything.
Nobody knows.
But
just like you talked about having a successor in place, I think they've talked, again, I think they've like somewhat prepared and somewhat kind of known. I don't know. We'll see.
They had to have known. He's been taking interviews for the last 2 years.
Yeah. So they brought.
I just don't know who the guy is. And the Jets took somebody too.
Yeah, Jets took.
Ben Johnson might have taken somebody. Everybody's just cutting up that pie.
Yeah.
But like you said, I'm sure they had somebody in place.
Yeah.
That even knew once Ben Johnson takes his job, you're the next guy.
John Morton.
The old receiver for the Lions?
Old receiver.
Johnny Morton?
I don't know if his name was Johnny, but John Morton.
I think there used to be a receiver on the Lions named Johnny Morton. But yeah.
Yeah, so.
So let's talk about receiver ones for a second because we had a draft last weekend, live draft, main event. What's up?
Aaron Rodgers had you on something.
Let's
Forgot
talk
about
about.
my phone.
I'll put your phone. What happened? All right. Did a live main event last weekend. Pretty dope event. We'll definitely do some more. So please like, rate, and subscribe to this episode so that you guys can get notifications on our live drafts. Also, we'll post some live drafts without commentary, just if you guys just want to just tune in and just watch some live drafts and you don't have the links.
Yeah,
but I want to kind of go through the board for a second, not necessarily because I want to go back over the draft, but I want to ask you guys some questions about receivers out of that top 12 who can be receiver one, who can actually be the top receiver on the season. So I kind of want to go through that board a little bit and talk about who can finish as receiver one. Overall, who's not in that top 12. So
who's not in the top 12?
Right. So, like, obviously.
Who's the top 12?
I think it's going
12th player?
So the 12th looks like it is, what, Ladd?
McConkey? Is he before or after A.J. Brown?
Actually, JSN is receiver 12.
Okay.
So Marvin Harrison, T. Higgins, Davante Adams, Rashee Rice, like in that field. DJ Moore.
Yeah. Tyreek Hill.
Damn. I think. So go ahead, Mr.
Yeah. So I think it's less so about who can finish as the number one overall because I think it's like that's like a highly unlikely that any of those guys finish as the number one overall. Possible, but highly unlikely. I think what's more important to me is not just from like receiver 13 and down, but like literally wide receiver 13 down or wide receiver like 65, 60. Which one of those guys can potentially finish as an overall wide receiver one, or maybe even a high-end wide receiver, top 12, top 20. Because the way that I look at the board now, it just seems like there's a lot of, not just ambiguity when we talk about like with running backs, but also like in certain receiver rooms, whether it's guys with injuries, whether it's guys aging out, offensive coordinator changes, changing offensive systems and identities, new quarterbacks. There's just a lot there, and I think it makes it very difficult sometimes to like rank a lot of these wide receivers. We sort of kind of run with narratives, and I'm not sure how accurate the ADP market is for like the wide receiver, 11, 12 down to the wide receiver 36, 37.
So for me, when I look at any kind of questions like this, because obviously if they're not in the top 12 now, or wide receiver one now, that means they have to improve this upcoming season. So for me, I always just eliminate all the older players, right? Because I feel like older players, they're already at their peak. Not many of them getting better. So I automatically eliminate everybody. You said Tyreek, Davante Adams, whoever else.
Really?
You said. Yeah.
That's a good way of thinking about it. Yeah.
See, I disagree with that.
Yeah. There's no way in hell.
Not number one overall. Who can just finish?
No, his question said who can finish overall number one.
No, well the question should be who can finish in that top 12.
I'm answering his question. His question: who can finish overall number one?
Well, that's what I mean.
So again, all those old guys, I don't see them getting any better. But the one guy you did say that was young, that has a chance. And again, it's gonna be a major uphill battle because to finish wide receiver number one, you have to beat out Jefferson and Chase, which is very, very unlikely. But for any of those guys that you said that have a chance, it has to be Rice because he's young. Rashee Rice. And if you really look at what he did prior to injury, he started off the season like as a top five wide receiver. So it's not too far-fetched. If they totally commit to him and kind of phase out Travis Kelce a little bit, he can go crazy. So that would be the guy I would say. Now, for Abby's question, who later can finish as a wide receiver one, I still think somebody like Jalen Waddle can do it. Because, again, we looked at him as a wide receiver one just a couple years ago. But going back to what I was saying initially, I think it's a player that's young that's getting better, right? So you have to consider the rookies. So your Tets, your Travis Hunter. I don't know about Buka. Something that's happening.
You think Travis Hunter can overtake
Brian Thomas?
Brian Thomas?
Depends how they use him this year. If they really commit to using him, I mean, and I don't know how Liam Cohen decides to use that.
He
team.
coming around.
No, I'm not coming around at all. I don't think he's good. All I'm saying is I don't know what coaches are going to do. That's one thing I'm always going to say.
Yeah.
Coaches have to make decisions. They decided to trade all that stuff to draft them number 2 overall, right?
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to get to a point where they just say, you know, we made a mistake. Let's totally phase this guy out now. You know, how he produces, that's a question. I personally don't think he's going to do that great, but if they decide to force feed him, you know.
Yeah.
And again, he's a young guy. So the rookies, your second-year receivers, those guys have a chance.
And don't be surprised if somebody like Davante Smith overtakes A.J. Brown, too.
I don't see that.
No, like I can
I
see
mean,
it,
Davante's
man.
kind of old now, though. Davante's like 28
When he's kind of
now, right?
old, and like I can kind of see them souring on A.J. Brown, too. Like he's.
No, I'm saying
he's trying
Davante
to,
is old.
No, I'm talking about A.J. Brown.
No.
Like I think it's more about A.J. Brown and them souring on A.J. Brown.
Why would they sour? He was extremely efficient last
You
year.
mean like
because of
sour,
his
like
attitude.
getting rid of him?
Yeah, like his attitude. That's why. Like I don't think the team like really likes AJ Brown, and you can kind of see them kind of phasing him out like in that playoff run. In that playoff run, like they were kind of moving away from AJ
I
Brown.
just
a
don't
bit.
think Davante has it in to be a true wide receiver 1.
I mean, I think if he goes into the season knowing that he's gonna get more targets, I think they can.
I mean,
make
I
him
just
an
don't
AJ.
think he's capable as far as you know, manning that role. Like I see him as a very strong wide receiver too. Like that's what I see him. That's his role is perfect for him.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, I don't know. Like, if we answering, okay, who can finish overall number 1 outside of the 12, I think it is those guys who were just like right there in like round 3. I think it's going to be hard pressed to find somebody later on the ball. But let me.
okay.
Yeah,
So
I think
like,
you're about to go where I'm about to go too. Yeah.
I do not think it could be JSN. I just don't see
I
it.
want to know, what are y'all thoughts on Jays? I'm not a big fan, but
Me either.
But when you did your draft, and
I'm
he
not
was
drafting
taken
him.
like in the end of the second or the beginning
That's
of
where
the
he
third,
goes. That's where he goes.
I was like, I didn't realize he was valued that high now.
I just can't. I can't. I don't. And I'm trying to like. I really kind of ask myself, do I have a mental block against this? Because I know how Cooper Kupp played
I
last
think
year.
I might.
And I do think I have a bit of a mental block. But then also when I just sort of kind of add everything else into the picture, it's less so that I'm like down on JSN. It's more so that I would much rather have so many other, I shouldn't say so many other, but a lot of other wide receivers that are going after him.
Right.
Give me like I think like Davante Adams is definitely, I feel like, I don't want to say being slept on, but I feel like he is in just one of the best
But let me
situations.
ask you this. Would you agree Davante Adams probably is not going to increase in value over this year? Would you agree with that?
No, I disagree.
You think Davante can increase in value
This
over this year?
this is specifically for redraft.
Yeah.
For redraft, I feel like him going his 2025, I see his value could significantly increase, or he could significantly
So
do better
right now
than
he's going in the
2024.
third round. You think there's a chance Davante can go in the second or first round next year?
No, because of his age, but that doesn't mean
But that's the point I'm making.
But let me finish though. Let me finish because I understand that players are ascending. I understand that players are descending. But this is one of those outlier situations where the guy is just good enough. So there's a couple of reasons. This is because I've really been on this like Davante Adams, like, oh my God, like I want to try and get as much Davante Adams as possible. We already know he's going into a narrow target tree. We know his quarterback is extremely accurate. We know he finished last year strong. We know he's with a great play caller. But this was the kicker for me. The Rams have never truly had someone like from a receiving standpoint that has really operated very, very well in the end zone.
Bro, you don't have to sell us on Davante Adams.
This is not just selling you on
Like,
Davante.
we get it.
But this is not just selling you on Davante Adams. This is selling you on Davante Adams over JSN
No,
because he's such an older receiver.
But that's not
and
what
then,
I said.
And then
What
also,
this is what I'm saying. I'm asking, can Davante Adams' value increase this season to where he's picked higher next year? And if the answer is no, then my next question is there something JSN can do? Keep in mind, JSN is going into his third year. Very, very young.
Yeah.
He is now technically going to be in the wide receiver 1 spot for his team.
Yeah.
Last year he wasn't. As a rookie he wasn't, right? So this is the first year he's going to be the bona fide wide receiver 1. Is there something JSN can do this season that'll make us consider drafting him even higher next year?
And again, my answer to that, so yes, but my like final answer to that is that for redraft, that is like a moot point. That doesn't matter because of how old Davante Adams is. So it doesn't matter. Like I really think that Davante Adams has a significantly higher chance of finishing as the overall number 1 wide receiver than JSN. Okay.
So that was your answer that Chris was asking earlier.
So Yeah, so I think he has a significantly higher chance of filling up at that wide receiver one. But because of his age, he's automatically going to get knocked down next
I
year
see
because
it-
people are going to talk about no matter how efficient he is, no matter how great he is this
He's
year,
one more year
he's
older.
always going. People are always going to say, "Hey,
but
that
I'm
age
looking
cliff
at
is
this as a range of possibilities. I'm not looking at it as what is going to happen. Like here, this is the spot I put it. I'm looking at what's the range, okay?
I'm talking about
on
the range.
On the high end, okay, Davante, maybe he finishes wide receiver one or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a chance Davante Adams could take a step back.
Yeah.
He is getting older.
Yeah.
He is now the number 2.
Yeah.
That's in the range of possibility.
Yeah.
For JSN, I don't know if there's much he can do to make his value decrease unless he just totally busts.
Yeah.
But I do recognize there's possibly something he can do this season that'll make his range of outcome a lot better than what it is now, like a lot better. Because again, he is going into his 3rd year, very young, now has the opportunity that he's never had. So I'm looking at it as, if I'm playing the range of possibilities, taking somebody like JSN, going back to, again, Chris's question, could he finish as the wide receiver 1 going to next year? Yes, I could see that. Like, I can actually see that play out. And again, if you're drafting him now, you're taking that bet. While if you take Adams, I don't think you're making a bet as far as he might finish better. I mean, again, it's possible, but I don't think you're making a bet as like, this guy is going to be a top 12 wide receiver. I think you're taking Davante Adams because you're like, this is a great place to get him. Like, you're taking him on his high end now.
That's why I disagree. That's why, and it's a philosophical difference. I disagree. I feel like you're not taking him his high.
If you think Davante Adams can be a top 12 wide receiver in this year, who would you say he's better than?
JSN. He could easily finish ahead of Garrett Wilson.
Other than JSN, I'm talking about the other.
He could easily finish ahead of Garrett Wilson. He could easily finish ahead of.
Garrett Wilson's not top 12. Garrett Wilson's after JSN.
No, he's before. Garrett Wilson's before JSN. He could finish before AJ Brown. He could easily finish ahead of Lad McConkey.
Okay, not saying easily. What do you think is going to happen? Do you
I
draft
think
Davante Adams because you think he's going to finish before?
Davante Adams is going to finish well ahead of those guys.
Okay,
I think that's going to
really
happen.
disagree there.
Because
then you're really a Davante Adams
so look,
believer, if that's the
it's not
case.
even about being a Davante Adams believer. I remember back to when I could see Cup falling off and see the athleticism dip for like the last 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
But when he was healthy, he was getting double-digit targets.
Okay.
And in PPR leagues, if you're getting double-digit targets
But again,
and scoring
you're
90 to 100,
But again, you don't
90
have to
to
sell me on Davante. Like, I'm not here to be sold. Like, I get Davante Adams is good. He's in a good situation. I'm asking you just direct comparison. You're telling me that you think Davante Adams, like you're saying you're almost guaranteeing that Davante Adams will finish better than
I said I think he does.
AJ Brown. Who else did you mention? Like all those guys.
I think he can. Yes, I think he can. And I think
but do
I
you
would not
think
be
he
shocked
will?
at
I'm
all.
not saying do you think he can. Again, it's obviously a range of possibilities. Any of those guys can finish number 1.
If I'm
but
putting
what do you
my
think is going to happen?
if I'm putting my money on it, if you ask me to put my money down on it right now, I'm saying Davante Adams is going to finish better than JSN. He's going to finish better than Lad McConkey. And this is points per game. This is points per game because if he gets hurt, he gets hurt. But he's going to finish better than Lad McConkey. He's going to finish better than AJ Brown. He's going to finish better than Garrett Wilson. Okay, all the way basically up to like.
Keep going. Who else?
He should basically be behind Drake London, and then it's still going to be kind of close because I still don't know how good Penix is.
So if you do your rankings, and you're supposed to have your rankings by now. So when I see your rankings, you're going to have Drake London, and then after that you're going to have Davante Adams.
You're going to see Davante Adams.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, you're going to see Davante Adams.
Okay.
Because I don't do projections. I physically don't do projections. Not that I don't believe in people doing, but I don't do projections.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to be hard pressed to show me projections of the Rams offense and what you're projecting from if Davante Adams plays the entire game or for the entire season, his targets, the percentage, his completion, his completed targets, okay, and then his TD rate just based on historically and based on like what Matt Stafford. It's going to be hard. You're going to be hard pressed to find that projection beat out everybody else.
You think he's undervalued right now?
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely.
All right.
So one guy that we kind of left off that's after
now I'm the Davante Adams guy.
You 100% are. There ain't nobody higher on Davante Adams than you right now.
One guy that you guys kind of left off that.
But I wouldn't draft him out of because you don't need to draft him that high. So in the draft.
But if he starts getting steamed up and he starts going higher in draft, at some point.
Okay, look, I can so I'm in a main currently, and I took him at the 302.
If he goes, but you said Drake London. I've seen Drake London go as high as 204. So if you're at 205,
I'm not taking Davante Adams. There's no need. He will
Well, I'm
likely
saying
fall back
if he
to
starts
them.
going that high, like if he starts settling ADP mid-second, are you now saying, okay, fine, this is where he's valued, click, let's go?
Yeah, I have no issues with that.
Okay,
He rises, somebody else falls.
okay, I'm just saying.
So we talked about young receivers potentially ascending to that receiver one.
I'm not making that bet, by the way.
And so we never talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. Obviously, he's going into his second season.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray is still his quarterback, but Tyler McBride is someone who's going to command targets, but also command the attention of defenses. Let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals for a second, but let's start off with Marvin Harrison Jr. Can y'all see him actually finishing receiver one or at least making that jump to an elite receiver the way that we thought about him before last season?
I 100% can, but it goes back to what I was saying earlier about the youth. Like receivers make their biggest jump from year 1 to year 2 and year 2 to year 3, and he's still very young. He was the number 1 receiver taken in his draft. Hopefully the system is better because the problem I had a lot last year, part of it was him because he looked slow. He didn't look like he was twitchy, but also part of it was I feel like the offense wasn't being catered to him at all. They weren't giving him easy looks. They always had him run these routes that weren't like off man or where he was just in space. He just felt like he was always covered, and he didn't have the type of speed to kind of create separation. So if they change a lot of that stuff, I still think he's physically imposing to the cornerbacks, which is one of the pros he had coming into the league. He's still their number 1 guy. Like, they don't have anybody else. They invested a lot in him. I feel like he can make that jump. Now, how much of a jump he makes, I don't know.
But does it make you feel better that like he's kind of bulked up on us, kind of gotten bigger? If he couldn't get separation, if he was slow before, like him bulking up, is he getting faster by bulking up?
You can get fast. I mean, you just got to make sure you doing speed agility drills. You still working.
But I kind of wonder, was that ever his game to be fast anyway? Was he a fast, speedy guy at Ohio State?
True.
Like, I don't know if that's the way he used to win. So I don't know if that's a big deal. Like DeAndre Hopkins has never been a fast guy. He's one of the best receivers in the league. So
Although D-Hop takes offense to that. Like he kind of posted about it. He takes offense. He's like, hey, like I'm not slow, man. Like look at my.
Well, I would say I definitely feel like he could definitely take that next step. My confidence level in him becoming like an elite wide receiver this year is like well below 20%. Let's call it 15%. And that's not even
back to the numbers.
Yes, that's 15%. Confidence level 15%. And that's for a couple different reasons. You can start off with him, like we talked about some of the issues he had last year. I could definitely see him improving. I mean, he should improve. He was a rookie. So I will give him a bump and give him the nod on that end. But I just have, some concerns about the OC. I did send, they tweeted out, I think it was Trey McBride who commented on the offense is a little bit more complex. Adding layers, adding more wrinkles, moving guys around. Anytime they talk about pre-snap motion and moving guys around, love to hear that. I think a lot of people kind of posted about how that can really improve on the offense. But I don't know, it's still Drew Petzing, and I just, I've never really been a fan of his offense from a fantasy standpoint. I think it could be efficient from an NFL standpoint, but from a fantasy standpoint, I'm just not quite sure. So you got the OC, you got the system, you got how he's used. If they can give him more layups, great. If they can give him but he's not a guy you want to use in a screen game. He's not a guy that
Why not?
Because he's just, I don't know. He's just not, like you said, he lacks that sort of kind of twitchiness. He lacks the elusiveness. He broke 1 tackle last year.
I think he could be like Larry Fitzgerald.
He broke 1 tackle last year.
I mean, I wasn't watching every play to see.
It was charted. He broke literally 1 tackle, and that 1 tackle was questionable.
Every play to see how he was in position when he was trying to break tackles. Was it a situation where he had the ball in space and he was being able to make moves, or was it one of those things where the ball was there and he was tackled right when he was being caught?
But again, that goes back to one, he wasn't good enough to even in those situations break the tackles. But then 2, again, now you got to hope that the offensive system is better. So I'm hoping that he's better. I'm hoping that the offensive system's better. And then this is the kicker. This is the thing that really is tough, is that Kyler Murray to me is Kyler Murray. I don't know what more we want from Kyler Murray. A big issue with Kyler Murray is the same issue that I saw with Russell Wilson. They have like huge blind spots in the field. One reason they're small. And so like when it comes to like, and I think that was an issue that, the Steelers had last year with Russell Wilson and like Arthur Smith has like, bro, like this is the play. The dude is wide open, but Russell Wilson can't see that. He's great at throwing that deep ball. They're great at throwing the deep ball because they're great at rolling out or buying time, and they got great touches on because they've learned, they've been conditioned. I struggle reading and seeing over the middle of the field. So I got to be great at hitting the outside numbers. I got to be great at the dump offs. I got to be great at, finding guys and moving around and then like, kind of, operating off script. But when it comes to just sort of kind of, hitting guys in rhythm, I feel like that's where the difficulty is. So could it be better? Possibly, but then I got to worry about that. The one thing that I think is a huge advantage though for Marvin Harrison was like his usage in the red zone, the targets and looks that he got. So they could get better there. So like he could potentially be a situation where like, okay, maybe he somehow gets double-digit TDs and then like he gets you there. But like, it's just, I feel like I'm having to ask for a lot to like bet that this is the year that he's going to do it. I'd rather bet on Tyreek Hill. I'd rather bet that Tyreek Hill is healthier and that they figure it out rather than bet on Pessing being better, bet Marvin Harrison takes a step forward, bet that Kyler Murray improves as a quarterback, bet that offense, like that's just too many ifs.
But first off, I'm seeing Kyler Murray produce with receivers. Like with DeAndre Hopkins produced with Kyler Murray.
That's a certain type of receiver.
Kirk produced with Kyler Murray, and they're both totally different.
Christian Kirk never produced elite receiver numbers.
He produced so well. He got one of the biggest.
But it wasn't elite fantasy numbers. That's what I'm talking about.
What I'm saying is he's produced with a receiver. Like you're saying, he has a hard time like reading. He can actually get if he has one wide receiver he's like locked in on. He can actually get the ball to him. But here's the thing. When you're making a bet on Marvin Harrison, of course, right now you're taking a gamble. Marvin Harrison is not valued like somebody that's a high-end wide receiver.
He's going in the third round.
He's not going in the third round. He's going like in the fourth round.
In FFPC, he's going in the third round.
He's going like in the fourth round. He's going.
His ADP is in the third round.
When was he taken in the main event?
I'm saying his ADP right now is third round.
But again, the bet you make with somebody like Marvin Harrison in the third round.
Yeah, it's the third.
Yeah, his
Where
ADP,
was he taken?
But his ADP is in the third round.
Yeah.
But the bet you're making with Marvin Harrison, you're betting he's going to make a big jump because, again, when you're looking at players that make that jump, it has to be somebody young. He was the first player taken in the draft. And, again, there's people that do believe the talent is still there. I mean, he was dominant at Ohio State, right? So what happened last year, we keep talking about the system. If they change the system, he can make a big jump. Kyler Murray can get to a receiver if he actually locks in on getting to that receiver. The only issue you have to ask for Marvin Harrison, do you think he's good or not?
That's not the only issue. That's not the you just listed Kyler Murray's got to make a jump. The offense has to change, and he has to get better.
Kyler Murray has to make a jump. I'm just saying he has to lock in like he's done before. Kyler Murray's done it before.
He's done it. He's had one. I'm talking about fantasy. I'm not talking about like has a guy been productive in the system. We're drafting him in the third round with the idea that he could potentially be an elite top 12 or at least top 12 wide receiver. He's had one, and that was DeAndre Hopkins, and that was a unique type of receiver, and that was very different. And even then, he was still throwing him a lot of consistent touches.
Marvin Harrison, who they took in the top 10. Like, they look at him as an elite receiver. Like, you don't take receivers that high in the draft unless you expect him to be an elite receiver. So, again, I know Kyler Murray can get him the ball. I personally, the biggest issue, like I started off saying with this, is I think the system was trash last year. Systems can change. I do recognize that. Y'all are just now telling me they had some kind of interview. Who'd you say did that, McBride or somebody? Who we just said that they changed the system?
No, I didn't say they changed the system. It's the same offensive coordinator, the same head coach.
Well, they're doing something. You just said they're doing other things.
They said they're adding complexity.
So what I'm saying is they're changing. They're making some kind of adjustment.
Yeah.
So again, if the adjustments they make put this guy in space, get him the ball more effectively, then I think he can actually pass value. I really do believe that. Again, you're making a bet because again he still has a future ahead of him as far as to be able to be in that position. Now, if he doesn't hit, then that's a bet you just lost on. But again, when you're looking at the other players in that position, you're looking at them as are they going to be able to ascend? Are they going to be able to increase in value?
But I just
don't
feel
know
like
any of those guys there can truly increase in value.
I just feel, at least for me, I don't like approaching drafts that way. I don't care like what you could do. What I'm trying to do is make a bet on what you will do. So for me, I'm trying to make a bet, and I may be wrong, but I'm trying to make a bet. What will Marvin Harrison do? What will this other guy do?
Okay.
And if I don't feel like I don't care what Marvin Harrison can do. I'm trying to figure out what he will do. And if I don't feel like what he will do is better than what this other guy's going to do,
but
I'm
what
going to do
saying
that.
is when you draft somebody like Marvin Harrison, You're drafting because you feel like he can take this big jump. Like you're hoping that he hits on value. It's the same reason you draft.
I'm saying that we're not just hoping that he changes. You're not just hoping that Marvin Harris. It's one thing if I just have to bet on Marvin Harrison improving, but we have to assume and hope that the offense is better. We have to assume and hope that the quarterback
I honestly
is better.
I don't think it was a Kyler issue. So I don't think Kyler is a problem at all. I don't think Marvin Harrison is a problem. Unless we're just now saying he sucked. And I'm not ready to say that. I truly believe it was simply the system. As I watched the Cardinals last year, I used to watch them like, why are they making everything so difficult for Marvin Harrison? He's not calling his routes. He's not the one actually determining where he lines up. The coach makes all those decisions. If the coach can make adjustments to those specific things right there, I think it changes everything. And that's what I'm saying the bet is when you're drafting Marvin Harrison. And again, if he sucks, then it's a failing bet. But are we ready to say he sucks? Is that what we're saying?
It's not. To me, it's not about if he sucks. That's why I don't want to talk about like he sucks or he's great. Okay. I feel like that makes
you feel like Kyler's a problem.
No. What I'm saying is that we're either saying he's a 0 or 100. I'm saying that he could be a 65, and I'm saying I don't want to draft a 65% in the third round. Okay, I want to draft an 85% who has a chance to be like a 95%.
But again, I don't think you're drafting because you're saying this is what he's going to be. I think you're drafting for the range of possibilities. I think you're drafting because, yeah, he could be a 65, but he actually can be 100%. And he could obviously be a 0%. Like, there's all those ranges.
So let me ask you then, Davante Adams or Marvin Harrison Jr.?
If I was drafting?
Yeah.
I would take Davante, but again, Davante's going before Marvin Harrison.
Okay.
But I'm saying
Tyreek Hill or Marvin Harrison Jr.
Tyreek is also going before Marvin Harrison.
I mean, they're like neck and neck.
But what I'm saying is when they're gone, and I'm looking at Marvin Harrison, the reason I'm saying, because if you look at what Marvin Harrison did last year, where he's going right now, he should not be valued there at all. Like if you knew Marvin Harrison would do the exact same thing next year as he did last year, Marvin Harrison should probably be what, like a 7th, 8th round pick, if not worse.
That's what I'm saying. So it's already baked in.
So when you're drafting him now, you're drafting because you're looking at there's a chance he can hit that high range of possibility.
And so what needs to be discussed, because we do have like a lot, and this is always like a player take, and this guy's a great guy. What needs to be also discussed is like what are you passing on by taking him? You can draft him, but then you may miss out on other guys.
But if you look at the other guys as far as you don't think...
What's the risk of taking him versus...
If you're looking at the other guys thinking that you don't think they have a high chance of really surpassing their value. So if you look at that person like...
What about Terry McLaurin?
If you look at that person, you're like, this is what they are, right? Or if you look at it like their best years are behind them. Like they're going to eventually start taking a dip. You might be telling yourself when you're in that draft, do I want to take somebody that has a chance of being their range of possibilities on the high end? Or do I want to take somebody who's safe because I know what he's going to be, and I know this is something consistent I can roll with. And that's the bet you're making when you're drafting right now.
I know, but it depends. So it really just depends on who's on the board if I'm willing to make that bet.
Right.
And to me, it's
that's
lower.
That's the case for every pick. That's the case for every. And again, people draft differently. There's some people, like you look at some people's drafts and they're drafting nothing but rookies or young guys. And you're looking like, why are you doing that? Because that person's making a bet. All these people are going to surpass their value. Because again, like I told y'all a couple weeks ago, rookies now are at the lowest value they're ever going to be. The ones that are actually going to hit. Because every year in the future, if they're guys that are good,
that's not true,
they're going to be higher in picks.
Marvin Harrison was drafted like at the
he didn't hit. He didn't hit.
Exactly.
I just said rookies that hit. This is the cheapest they're ever going to be.
But you don't.
Like
but you don't know which ones are going to hit. That's why.
Of course you don't know. If you know, then it'll be easy game. That's what I'm saying. When people draft these rookies, like the team that takes a bunch of rookies, they're hoping
assuming
one of
somebody's
them
going to hit.
Yeah, one of them is going to hit.
Yeah.
That's what they're hoping for. And if the gamble works out, they hit big. You know what I'm saying? Those are the type of players that like push your team past that major level.
Yeah, but at what cost?
I'm not saying that's the strategy for everybody.
Yeah.
I know some people that take simply safe. I know what I'm getting from this person. Like I know people that take a lot of old guys because they know this guy is good. This guy's solid. I'm gonna take Derrick Henry. I don't care. Yeah. I'm gonna ride till the wheels fall off. I'm gonna take T-Mac. I don't care. I'm gonna ride till the wheels fall off because they feel like they know what they're getting, and they can win that way. And there's other people that are like, you know what? I'm gonna take a chance on all my plays. It's one winner anyways, right? Like you don't win nothing for being in fourth place. You got to be first.
I guess, and it's personal preference. For me, it's like each individual one. I like Davante Adams well over Marvin Harrison Jr.
You just told me you like
but then I like
Ted.
But then I'll take Ted McMillan over Mike Evans. Like so, to me, it's not like I got to draft all rookies or I got to draft all the safe players.
Then you are doing it. So you're looking at it as because if you look at what Mike
that's not
Evans has done. Mike Evans is solid.
I guess what I'm saying is like, to me, I don't play into the dynasty, the rookies, or like, this guy could be this or this guy could be this. I look at it, okay, this is this guy's like skill level. This is the situation he's in. These are his competitions. I try to look at all these factors, and then that's where you're at. Okay. I don't care that like you're a rookie or that you're super young and that you could be here.
What would be your motivating factor to value Tet or T-Mac, whatever he wants to be called?
Because Tet is in an offense where that X receiver has been traditionally the primary target and has produced wide receiver one type numbers.
I got you.
He was drafted early.
He's
explosive.
But again,
he's in a good system.
That
is a risk.
But is that player better than what you're getting out of Mike Evans, who's been 1,000?
No, it was an absolute risk. But I have a, what I was talking about, the confidence level. And just get back to my confidence level. 50% confidence level with Mike Evans, 65% confidence level with Tet McMillan.
Yeah, so 15% confidence in Mike Evans.
I will take Tet McMillan over Marvin Harrison Jr. Every single draft I'm in.
You have a 15% confidence level?
No, I said I have a 15% confidence level in Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oh, Marvin Harrison. Okay, yeah. I mean, that's a personal preference, though.
But that's more of an example of what you were talking to. Like, I kind of know what I'm gonna get with Mike Evans, which is I'm looking at like when Chris Godwin was healthy. Like, you'll have some boom weeks, you'll have some low weeks. Like, he is getting older, so maybe building a little some regression.
But you do know there's people in that same situation.
Oh yeah,
they're gonna take Mike Evans over Tet because they want that consistent
absolutely.
Receiver every year. So again, it depends on the player.
And I get that.
For the people that are taking Marvin Harrison, I think that's the bet they're making.
I guess my issue is just that, like, how high he's going. And for me, it's just like, and I get what you're saying. I'm not saying those people are wrong. I'm not telling y'all not to. I'm just saying, for me, like, I think it's too high.
I got you. I mean, but there's question marks with all those receivers there, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
All of them.
So who has the list? I don't like drafting Terry McLaurin. I don't like drafting Marvin Harrison. I've never so I agree with you in a lot of these situations. Luckily at that back end, like, I feel like there are other options you can go to. I just feel like the ADP gets kind of stuck. And then people will take quarterbacks and be like, you know what, forget
it. There was a question on Twitter I responded to today. They were like, who's somebody that could rise in ADP a lot from now going towards the season? I said it was Rice, because he's the one where it's like his questions, once they're answered, like, he's good before the season. If he's gonna go to court, like we were talking about pre-show, that's looking like it's not going to happen. Is he healthy? We're going to find out if he's healthy pretty early. If those two questions are answered, you're not going to get him in the same place you're getting your Tyreek Hill and whoever's going. You're going to get him in like the early third, the second. I don't see any of those other receivers.
That's where he is right now. Going. Honestly, that's where I've taken him too.
I've seen him going in the third, like mid to late third.
I took him in the late second. I have him over JSN.
Okay,
well, and that's a gamble too. Like that's a gamble too, because I don't know how much Xavier Worthy is going to take away.
But he's not top 12 now, right? I don't think he is.
No, he's not top 12 now, but his ADP has been rising.
But that's what I'm saying.
It's mid-third right now.
That's why I see it rising, and it's going to continue to rise. Like, if those two questions were answered, no court issue as far as suspension, totally healthy, where would you take him right now?
To be honest,
considering all the guys,
I still take him where he's going now.
You would take him after JSN, after T. Higgins and all that?
He's before JSN. But I'm not.
He's
before T. Higgins.
That's what I'm saying. Like, where would you take him? Would you take him before? Okay, how about this? A.J. Brown and Lad McConkey, they tend to go in the same place. Who, Rice or either of those two?
I like A.J. Brown. I feel like there could be a lot of regression in his favor, because that defense may not do more competitive game scripts. They're not going to be able just to sit on the ball potentially. Maybe, Barkley doesn't do what I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement. And he was so good last year. So A.J. Brown is like with Drake London up there for me. And then after that, take your pick. Like you said, it's kind of like with the Lad McConkey pick.
So he would go right there then for you.
Yeah, I think
A.J. Brown, Lad, Rice, kind of in the same range.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out Lad.
So you have Rice over Lad. So you have A.J.
I would
Brown,
probably have Rice over Lad. I would probably just take that leap and that risk.
Sound like, Chris, you're not a believer in Rice then. Like, you don't.
Not really.
You're not a fan.
I mean, that offense is completely different since Rice was last in it. I think they believe in Xavier Worthy because they've gone to battle with him. So I don't think that he just becomes a gadget player after they go to a Super Bowl.
That offense
I
wasn't
think
that
you might
good
have
though.
forgot how well he looked last
Yeah,
year. He wasn't a deep threat.
That offense wasn't great with Xavier
Yeah.
Worthy leading the way.
Well,
Not
that
even
offensive
that, but
line
his,
wasn't great.
His role was totally
Exactly.
different than what Worthy's
Exactly.
role was.
That offensive line wasn't that great. So like
Right,
that's
but they've
right.
retooled that. Right, but they've retooled that offensive line.
No, they lost players from that offensive line.
Yeah, but they've gotten better. Like they
have not. I do not think they
they
got
feel
better.
like they've gotten better from an offensive line standpoint. I think they've gotten a little healthier as well. I just don't know if Rashee Rice is going back to the same team that he was on when he got injured.
So you're not a believer in Rice. What about Worthy? Are you believing Worthy?
I'm a believer in Worthy just because I think he has like
So you
special
think Worthy
talent.
should be going ahead of Rice?
No.
You think Rice?
I think they're all going about where
Where
they
they
should
should
go.
go.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. That's fair enough.
But
So
we are
those risks for you aren't even a thing. Like,
No.
Okay.
No. And we'll talk more about the risks, especially the legal risks with Rashee Rice next episode. But we're way over, guys. So that is the episode. But do you want to give us some dynasty sleepers?
Nah,
real quick?
man, I ain't got nobody.
But you've been giving us like 4 or 5 picks every episode.
I mean,
so
I will
we
say
can
this.
talk about. Go ahead.
Yeah, I will say this. We need to start like locking in on who the handcuffs are. It's still early. I know it's still early, but just keep that in mind because there are a lot of backfields of like running backs that are going very, very high, and in some situations their handcuffs are not being drafted, or again we're drafting the wrong one. I know we had like a show on this, but like one that comes to mind is like the Raiders situation. Look, I know Genty's untouchable. I know that no injury could ever happen to him, but what if? You know, and then like, I mean, just imagine like, you know, let's just assume it's Mostert for right now. You know, who knows? Like, I don't know if it's Mostert, McCormick, or whoever, but like that person is going undrafted right now. So like figuring out who that is or who could fill that role, like
Probably Mostert.
Probably Mostert, right? And the fact that he's like going undrafted, and like I think Genty was amazing in college last year, but he got a ton of touches. And he's a rookie coming into the NFL. Like, and you know, injuries just happen to the most. We always talk about injuries happen to guys who are old, but like injuries happen to young guys all the time.
Not to mention they're gonna run a lot of plays.
All the time, and they're gonna run a ton of plays.
They're gonna be real fast. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it.
So I just, you know, that's the only thing that I wanted to say.
As far as sleepers, I guess I can mention Jalen Lane for the Commanders, 4th round pick. Probably gonna be a return guy, but he's real fast. They have an opening there with the loss of Diami Brown. Noah Brown is getting older, so I don't think they have anybody else at receiver. I guess Luke McCaffrey, but he shouldn't even be in the NFL. So like Jalen Lane has, I mean, and then matched up with Jaden Daniels.
Hold on,
I mean,
McCaffrey,
that's
sure.
a good like position to be in. It's a great opportunity for him. And then another guy, Arian Smith for the Jets. Kind of same exact situation. They don't really have a wide receiver two there. I guess they got with Josh Reynolds, Alan Lazard, but those guys are, you know, in the twilight of their careers. Arian Smith, very, very fast guy. I think he went to, was it Georgia? Hands was very suspect. Very, very suspect. But besides the hands, can get past anybody, can blow up, has a Xavier Worthy type game to him. He just has to catch the ball. And again, he's in a great opportunity. Gary Wilson, and then nobody else with the Jets.
Jermaine Burton.
I'm not ready to.
I'm just saying, keep him in the back of your mind because again, like that's a prolific passing offense, and like those guys, like we seen the Higgins injury. So like, what if this year he like? Because you seen, I mean, you know, he's saying all the right things now. But what if those things taken?
I don't think Yoshivas is going away quietly.
Or Yoshivas, but,
right. He's
you
still
know,
young,
but like
so.
options.
Also, we talk about the Chicago Bears backfield. But we've run out of time. Please like, rate, subscribe. We're out.